Hey, and welcome to The Noble Marriage, where we bring relatable, raw, and real conversations all about marriage and life. Hey, I'm Travis.
And I'm Adelle. And this is little Nala girl.
Hey, Nala. This is
She's
Princess
like,
Nala.
Just give me the treat.
Well, hey, babe.
Hey, handsome. It's good to see you today.
It's good to see you too.
What episode are we on?
6.
I'm already starting to lose track. That's crazy.
Today is episode 6. Welcome back.
Yes.
So thankful you guys came. And if you haven't seen episodes 1 through 5, please go back. It's worth viewing. And then welcome back to 6.
Yeah. I would love to just start off with some gratitude. In fact, we've been meaning to start off with that in every episode, and we keep forgetting. So we're going to try to do better with that.
Gratitude is the ultimate posture of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate posture of receiving.
It is. Yeah, it's this right here. So, I
wanna
am
start.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to start.
Well, sure.
Yes, thanks. I want to tell you that I am grateful that you have just brought me or made me 2 cups of coffee. You made our lunch and brought it out here. And you brought a snack just now.
I know. I'm going to try to sneak on it a little bit at a time while we're filming.
You may see us as we're eating, chomping a little bit. It's okay. It's
I'll
just
try
a
not
snack.
to do it in the mic.
It's snack time. Listen, 2 o'clock.
Espresso.
2 o'clock.
We call
It's
them
2 o'clock
express.
somewhere. It's 2 o'clock somewhere. It's our espresso time.
It's espresso time.
Cheers.
Cheers. And you were going to you did share. Thank you. I receive all of that. Thank you for your gratitude.
I have more.
Okay.
I'm really grateful that you're so good with these plants.
Oh.
Listen, every single one of these brings joy to me. And I don't know how many we have in the house. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And
It's like
I love it.
Probably 75 to 80, maybe more.
I think that would be on the low end. Yes.
I love plants. Thank you.
You're
They
welcome.
do. They bring a lot of life to our home. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I enjoy it too. I would like to tell you that I am grateful for how intentional you are with my heart. That you are constantly trying to really hear me and understand when I'm sharing something from my heart. And I've just seen you grow in that area, and so much. Where I used to hardly ever feel heard and understood by you. And I just see your intentionality and really caring for my heart in a positive, healthy way. And it's just, I have a lot of gratitude for you for that.
Thank you. I received that. I appreciate it. It's something that I am learning learning how to listen better.
Yeah, you're an excellent listener.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. All right. So what did we talk about last week?
Last week, we talked about how willpower alone is just not enough to keep us from destructive behaviors, poor decision making. Willpower alone just is not enough. We need to have freedom in our life.
Yeah, that's so true. And we really need to discover, why do I do the things that I do? Like, what is underneath that is driving these behaviors?
Yeah, and we learned in the Bible yesterday, it's not a current thing. The Apostle Paul is talking about it in Romans 7, that I don't know why do I keep doing that destructive behavior that I don't want to do, that I hate doing, even though I know what to do. And I feel the same way.
One of those destructive behaviors we're going to talk about in my life, not speaking up about things when I really needed to, because of lies that were written on my heart.
Hey, if you experience that in your relationship, there's things you really need to speak about, you really need to speak up to, and you just don't. Maybe fear. holding you back.
Yeah. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go back to the very first discovery that I had of betraying behaviors in our relationship. And it was a few months before our wedding. And so I actually wrote about this in one of our chapters of our book. And so I'm just going to read this portion, and then we definitely have some things we're going to dive into. One afternoon, while Travis was at work, I was at his apartment to get some wedding planning done on his computer. When I opened it up, I gasped. Immediately, I felt that all too familiar feeling. My heart plummeted into my stomach, and I was nauseous. Photos of other women cluttered the desktop. My heart was racing. My thoughts were blurry, my skin began to heat up, and I felt these strong waves of nausea flood my core. My heart tried to tell me something that day, but I did not listen. I told myself, this is just a normal guy thing, Adele. All guys do it, so I should just get over this. It will be fine. But I couldn't shake it. We had a conversation that day that was one of the most difficult conversations. I hated conflict and did my best to avoid it at all costs. And now I was having to confront him about something that was terribly uncomfortable to bring up. I'm not sure I had even used the word porn out loud to anyone before either. This topic was so uncomfortable and seemed so off limits, and yet here I am. In that conversation, I told him I better never have to bring this up again because I absolutely hate this topic. I shared what I discovered on his laptop that day. He was very apologetic and promised he would never do it again. He promised. This was a first for me. He is promising he won't do it again. And honestly, that was more than I ever got previously in my life. So I was accepting of this. I told myself that day that everything was fine and it's not a big deal. But in my heart, I was scared. I had doubts and fear that maybe love doesn't really exist like I thought. Growing up, I idolized my father and thought he was the greatest thing that walked on the planet. I always said I was a daddy's girl, while at the same time rebelling against his control and demands in my life. The older I got, the more I began to rebel against him. I hated being controlled and desperately started grasping for ways to be in control. That led me down to a path of very unhealthy choices in my life, including shoplifting from a department store. Those are not my best days. Getting arrested and then being sent away for a period of time because my parents honestly just didn't know what to do with my rebellion. They did the best they could with what they knew at the time, and I truly believe that they believed they were doing the best thing that they could for me. But Satan had other plans for my heart. Sitting on the top bunk of my shared new bedroom with someone I didn't know 800 miles from home, I cried. I cried long and hard. I felt so abandoned, so alone. People I love will leave me if I make mistakes in life. I can't let anyone know about my mistakes. From this point on, I have to hide myself so I will be accepted. I believed that I would be made to comply even when I don't want to. I believed that if I shared how I felt, that people I love won't listen or care anyways. This is what was playing in the background of my heart and why I just could not tell Travis about how I really felt about the pornography. This is what kept me from requesting that he get help and accountability for this. Instead, I internally vowed I would never bring this up again. Now that it's been spoken about, that is the end of that.
Exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark.
Done. Close the door. Never, ever
Looking
need
back.
to go back.
Yeah. That made sense to me.
Yeah.
We've already discussed this.
Done.
Yeah. That easy. Why was it not?
Wow. Well, it wasn't easy for either one of us for different reasons, right?
Yeah. You know, there's even more, there's so much in what I read there.
A lot. We could dissect this one for hours.
We really could, because there's the first discovery and what I went through with that, and the fact that it had not been the first time. So all of the same emotions that I was experiencing in my past were like rushing back.
Isn't it interesting that you have something that happened to you when you were younger and you felt betrayed? And
Yes.
you never wanted that to happen again.
Right.
And so you framed your life to look for that, to make sure it never happens to you again. And then you find it over and over and over.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about is really interesting is I did betray you. And that's true. I did betray your trust.
Yeah.
You trusted me not to look at pornography.
It's not like we ever had a conversation about it either.
That's true. We didn't.
I mean, it was an unspoken, unmet expectation.
Good point. Good point. I just find it so interesting how when I betray you, and I did betray you, I made poor choices against you. Your reaction to it is not a reaction to my betrayal. It's a reaction to my betrayal plus every other betrayal that you've ever had. And it goes all the way back to the first time you were betrayed. And it's like compounds on all the time. Or
Right.
it compounds emotionally.
Yeah, it does. We're going to unpack what you just said in the, what are these things called?
Oh, these are episodes?
episodes
These are episodes about our book?
Yeah, we're going to really unpack what you just alluded to, because that's huge.
Interesting.
But what I did refer to in this is the abandonment that I experienced when I was 16, and how that actually impacted me from having an open conversation. It was a lecture, and I'm telling you this, and you better listen to me so I never have to talk about this again. Mm-hmm. I think back to that, and I'm like, we could have actually had a good discussion about that.
Yeah, how long has this been?
Had these lies, and let's just look at the lies. I am abandoned. I'm alone. People I love will leave me if I make a mistake. But what's also going on for me there is people will leave me if I tell you about your mistake, because of what I have going on about my own mistakes. So it goes both ways. I can't let anyone know about mistakes from this point on. I have to hide myself so I'll be accepted, meaning I have to just be agreeable with you for you to accept me. I believe that I'm going to be made to comply no matter what.
These lies, they're making you behave in a certain way.
It is. Rather than just being like, okay, obviously I found this and we need to have a really good conversation about what I found on your computer, because it's not healthy for a relationship, and I want to discuss like how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, do we need to bring in a third party into this conversation? Talk about accountability, maybe a men's group that you can be part of, or
let's get you some healing around that
12-step program, or maybe good questions like, hey, how long has this been affecting you?
Right? I never even thought to ask you, like, is this a pattern in your life? Because I assumed you do it every once in a while. But I made myself believe that, because if I look back, I'm like, I saw through that.
Now, obviously, there's a good chance I'm going to be lying to you during this unhealthy stage. Mm-hmm. And what that's going to look like is defensiveness, justification. It's going to look like pride.
Don't tell anyone about this. I don't want anyone to know.
That's what deceit and lies look like. Defensiveness, justifying, anger, blame, victimization. Let me tell you what it doesn't look like. Humility. Mm-hmm. Humility is the opposite of that. That is That is, I know this is inappropriate. I know this is wrong. And I believe I had a humble heart in that. I did not want you to experience that, and I never want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't want you to know about it either.
You just got better at hiding it, really.
Well, I had a great willpower after that, and
You did?
not. Yeah, I had a excellent willpower after that. I don't want this. I
Mm-hmm.
never want you to experience it again. I was
So
determined.
it was enough of what I went through to impact you.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I was very impacted by that conversation, and I never want to hurt you again. It reminded me of my vow that I had made that, first of all, I didn't want to have any sort of physical relationship with you prior to marriage, nor did I want to ever have self-pleasure or to look at inappropriate things ever again. And I vowed that.
Mm.
However, my willpower just wasn't enough. And yet I still had shame and condemnation. I know it's wrong. I knew it was wrong. And so when you found it and brought it up, I was like, man, I never want to experience this again. So I went back to willpower. And
Yeah,
I had
and
great willpower for a period.
if you haven't already seen the last episode, be sure and go back and watch that episode. So were you aware of the consequences that come with those kind of behaviors?
Yeah, I'm aware that it's inappropriate, that it's wrong, that it is not honoring to God. And I am aware that the consequences of that would be destroyed relationships, hard feelings,
Yeah.
lack of trust. I was not aware of some other consequences, which I can get into, but I was not aware of some other consequences, like as it relates to like my mental health, my objectification of women, my thought process, my negative behavior patterns, how it affected my brain, how it shrinks my brain, how it affects my generational sin in my family that has passed me.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. But the consequences I was aware of, I still didn't want those.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious if, what your thought process was around consequences, or if the desire is just so strong that sometimes that's not existing.
Listen, I think it becomes more of a cognitive dissonance type of thing where
Mm-hmm.
let's just talk about what that is. And I think this is a great analogy of cognitive dissonance. If I smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day and you smoke 6 packs of cigarettes a day, what I can do in my mind is be like, well, I'm not that bad.
I'm not as bad as them.
I'm not as bad as them. They
Yeah.
obviously smoke more packs of cigarettes. And we all know, we're scientifically proven smoking it will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yet cognitive dissonance has me in my mind thinking, well, it's not that big of a deal. I can minimize this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have been what happened to me is the strength of evil, the perceived strength of the evil lies that are going on in my head
Yeah.
is really, really strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want you to imagine this, Adele. I want you to imagine a fish hook being
Yeah.
stuck in you.
Yep.
And it has such a strong string or a strong line that it is pulling me
Yeah.
in a direction.
Well, let's even back up for a second, because the enemy doesn't just come with this blank hook and, be like, let me hook you, you idiot. It's
Right? No.
a trap.
He's going to
No.
dress it up.
He puts flashy, gorgeous
Pretty.
additions onto the hook that make it enticing.
You're
and
going
very
to love
appealing.
this. Your life
And
is going to be better.
remember, he is he is disguised as the angel of light.
He's a deceiver.
Trying to make things look really good.
He's a deceiver.
Positive.
He's a liar. And when he speaks his own language. He's the father of lies.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so he dresses that hook up, which is what traps us.
Doesn't he? He makes it look pretty, and the hook is kind of hiding in there.
It is. And then, yeah, gives it a good yank. And
That's what I feel like, Adele. I feel like whenever sin is in my life, when I give an open door to the enemy, it really feels like these fish hooks are pulling on me in different directions.
right.
They're pulling hard. Another way to think about it is these chains, the attached to these chains.
Yeah.
That
Each and every lie is a chain
it is.
that keeps us small,
It is.
keeps us from being who it is God created us to be, which is a powerful human being.
Yeah, like your story earlier of feeling abandoned 800, 900 miles away. If I mess up, people leave me.
They do.
That lie right there is a hook from the
It
enemy
is.
that has you, it pulls you for the rest of
Right.
your life until you let go
Right.
of it. In fact, if you mess up anywhere in life, people leave you.
That's right.
Man, that's the scheme of the enemy. And that's what we're talking about right now is
Yep.
the hooks that can go into us from that.
Yeah, I mean the another lie that I was believing is that if I shared how I felt, people won't listen or care anyways. And in my mind, I really felt like you're going to do what you're going to do. But that's also why I said I better never have to bring this up again. And I think what I was alluding to with you is I better never catch you.
I think so too.
I don't have memory of that, but I look back at why would I have been so adamant about that, and I think it was because I didn't like the feeling of betrayal, but I wasn't as interested in why are you doing this to betray me to begin with. That would avoid me from feeling betrayed. I just didn't want you to make me feel that way, so do what you need to do so that this doesn't happen.
You made a comment that it's not that big of a deal, Adele. He's a man. Men
It's
do
a guy
this.
thing. Yep.
You know, that went through my head too because I was in the military for a long time and I was in law enforcement for a long
It's
time.
the worldly view.
And the people that I associated with, it was very normal in their lives. It was normal and they would participate in their marriage. It was a normal thing. And by the way, this is not a man thing.
No.
This is
a
not just a man
human.
thing. It's a
Mhm.
human thing, men and women. And it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
But I think that might be what you're talking about is you just had this thing in the background and your subconscious of he's probably going to do it anyway. I never, ever, you better not ever let me catch you.
Right. That's exactly.
Yeah. But what
Mhm.
you're talking about is you also have this want and desire that I actually never
I
do
actually
it.
want you to be a man of integrity. It's why being a police officer was attractive to me.
Yeah.
You've got to be a man of integrity. You uphold the law.
You would think.
So in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to have these issues with you. Yeah. You know, I've heard just stories of like moms who find out that their teenage boys have been introduced to pornography and how they just choose to overlook it and just not address it and even encourage them to do it in private.
Yep. Please don't
And
overlook it
please don't.
for their hearts.
Yeah, it's so destructive. I don't know if we have the time to go into the brain science of that today, but it is so destructive in that it's not a small thing. It is actually destroying the brain when it comes to being able to experience pleasure in marriage.
Destroys the brain, destroys relationships. It destroys
does.
self-esteem. It destroys value and worth.
Self-worth.
It destroys the objectification, the thought process about how I think about other God's children, and I want to use the other God's children as an object rather than a person, an individual, a person with a heart and a soul and a spirit. It destroys my my mental health,
Yeah.
my physical health.
Makes you want to isolate.
It does. It will make me want to isolate. It absolutely is destructive. And listen, I've probably only touched on half of the consequences, half of the
Yeah.
issues that it can cause,
Yeah.
maybe less.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's important. Address the things that need to be addressed in your home. And that's our question that we want to leave you with today is what are the things that you are not addressing in your home? One of the things that I was able to identify was that it was fear. Fear is what kept me from really sharing, from really being engaged in you,
Yes.
in your health and our future because of what it would mean for me. And it was all fear of things that probably would have never happened. But I believe that they would. And so I can just really see how fear kept me trapped.
Fear, anxiety, worry, all of those things are going to keep us paralyzed to not speak, to not act,
Right.
to not engage with the spouse in a very effective way in order to open something up, a conversation up, to have good healing, good conversation.
Yeah.
The fear.
Yeah.
Listen, God does not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind.
That's right. That's right. And I just feel like the Holy Spirit's telling me to go back to something. So I just want to circle back to
Sure.
the person who's feeling like, well, I'm not married yet, and watching pornography, masturbation, those things. When I get married, I will stop. And I just want to speak to that because it is so, it's not impossible because there's freedom,
Amen.
but it is so difficult.
It would be like, I just want to give an analogy. It's really like me shooting up heroin before getting married, and then after I get married, I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It
Your
doesn't.
brain does not work that way. Your subconscious does not work that way. It
Yeah.
gets strong. Neural pathways get sunk in, and it would feel weird to not do whatever it is.
Not only that, but then you can't enjoy your spouse.
Not available.
It's actually not available. Your brain cannot actually receive reality pleasure, which is meant to be really great. God made it to be good. And that's Satan's whole plan around pornography is to sever intimacy in the marriage, not only emotional intimacy, but physical intimacy as well, because God made marriage to be so, so good on all the levels.
Yes. It destroys the ability whenever you are married. I know you're talking to the ones who have not been married, but in marriage, pornography absolutely destroys the ability to have any oneness.
You have no access. You cannot access oneness if there's secrets. It's really secrets. It's not just pornography.
Right.
It's secrets.
It is. I think going back to the pornography, though, is
It's actually lies.
say it again.
It's actually lies that keep us from being able to access oneness. And pornography writes so many lies on the human heart.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
We've shared a good bit about our relationship.
Yeah, we have shared a little bit about my childhood and what kept me quiet when I discovered for the first time that there had been betrayal in our relationship. And thanks for letting me share that, by the way.
You're welcome. I really appreciate you sharing. I imagine that somebody got a lot of healing from that. Somebody got a lot of insight in their own marriage. And it could be specifically around, like, what are you not addressing in your marriage? Like, really think about that.
Yeah.
Think about your marriage. As you've heard us talking, I'm sure something's come up for you. The Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, is great at revealing things in our life that will help us be better.
Yeah.
What are you not addressing in your life, in your relationship? What area, what topic, just not addressing?
Yeah. And I just want to say that if you are someone who is just walking through discovery in your relationship, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've discovered something so painful. And what I want to say to you is that your spouse's choices have everything to do with their heart. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It doesn't mean you're not loved. You're not chosen. You're not beautiful. All of those things are true about you. What this means is that your spouse has a heart issue. And that's something that we really need to look at. And so, going back to the question that Travis said, it's really reflecting on what are the things that need to be addressed that haven't, and what do we need to talk about that already has happened.
Yeah,
That works for me.
the things that you've had arguments about that you swept under the rug, that you're like, you know what, we can't go back to that. That
Right.
was too difficult to talk about, to go over. Yes,
It
go back.
is.
You need to go back to that one, but bring a third party in.
Yeah.
Find a good Christian counselor, therapist, or a coach that you trust, and bring them into this conversation.
Yeah.
You're important. Your marriage is important. Your heart's important. Listen, your legacy is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just want to also say thank you so much for your likes, comments, and subscribing. So thank you so much for supporting our ministry in that way. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. I was say, I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
How do you want to land it?
Like a plane.
That's probably not the best plane sound.
No.
Give me a plane sound.
No, that's more like a toot.
Or a lawnmower.
Yeah, a lawnmower. I don't know what a plane sounds like, I guess.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.